Hello, and welcome to the Contingency Plan. This video is in regards to traveling during a survival situation. You will hear different opinions on this topic, and this one just happens to be mine. I will lay out the reasons for this, as well as tips on how you should go about this. It's pretty safe to say that in such a scenario, lawlessness will be the norm. You're not going to be able to call 911 for help, and even if you could, the odds of someone answering, let alone showing up, are virtually zero. So let's look at a scenario. We will make several assumptions in this scenario and then confront each one. First off, automobiles no longer work. Most will think that this means you are now on foot. As you'll see, that's not necessarily the case. Next, there are individuals or groups of very, very bad men out there just waiting for you to cross their path. And finally, for whatever reason, you need to get from point A to point B. Staying put may be your best choice unless you are in an urban area, weather is an issue, or you have a friend or relative with a place much more suitable to survival. As I mentioned, many survival experts will suggest you travel during the day and sleep at night. I suggest you do the exact opposite. I will lay out my reasons for traveling at night along with where to sleep and suggestions on ways to travel. For me, the pros vastly outweigh the cons when it comes to traveling at night versus the day. When most people envision traveling at night in such a scenario, they see themselves walking all night long in the dark and then finding a place to pitch a tent or lay out a sleeping bag while trying to remain hidden from others during the day. In my opinion, there is a much safer way to get from point A to point B. The safest and fastest would be not to walk at all, but that's not very realistic in this scenario. Walking to where you want to go should be one of your last resorts. If you must walk, do not walk directly on roads whenever you can avoid it. You don't want to find yourself in a scenario where you're walking down a road at night, see headlights approaching, and suddenly need to get off the road and hidden. If you haven't noticed, virtually every rural road is lined with fences. Take a look the next time you're out driving in the country and you will be amazed at how seldom you won't see a fence just off the side of the road. Trying to get yourself and whatever gear you have with you over a fence in complete darkness when seconds count is not a situation you want to find yourself in, especially if the fence is barbed wire. Get over the fence at dusk when you can still see and follow the road from the other side of the fence. If you come to a perpendicular fence, as indicated here by a red line, you have time to get over it carefully or to take your time and cut the fence without worrying about the approaching headlights. An even worse choice of travel at night is by bicycle. This mode won't allow you to travel on the other side of fences and will force you to use the very roads you should be avoiding because 9 times out of 10, that's where the people will be. It will help you cover ground much quicker, but is going to present a definite problem when you see those headlights coming your way off in the distance, or you happen to ride right up on a group of others walking down the road in the dark. There is a preferred method of traveling at night that should get you at least part of the way to where you need to go, but it will take some preparation, and that is by canoe. If you don't have one or can't afford one, then I highly recommend scouting out areas ahead of time and making notes of where you locate any canoes, because once the shit hits the fan, you're going to have to steal one as quickly as you can if you plan on leaving the area you live in. There are a lot of logistical issues with stealing a canoe, with many factors involved. This is something that will need to be well thought out ahead of time. The next thing you need to do is plan your route to wherever it is you plan to end up, using as much boat travel as possible. This may appear to add a lot of distance to your overall trip, but traveling by canoe is going to cover a lot more ground a lot quicker than walking. So your real journey is actually only from the point where you will need to abandon your canoe and walk the rest of the way. Plan on hiding your canoe somewhere near the riverbank just before dawn and then finding a place to sleep. It would suck to come back that night to find your canoe missing. The bottom line is that you're either walking the entire way or using a canoe to do some of the work. How you go about this is up to you and depends on many factors. Now let's talk about sleeping during the day. Your best bet is not to sleep outside. You should find a house or office building to break into, hopefully one that is no longer occupied. Many office buildings will have couches, which will be tempting. I would look for a basement or access to the roof if the weather permits sleeping outside. If you find a house to sleep in, I recommend getting into the attic. You can also get into the crawl space as a last resort. Do not sleep in one of the rooms in the house. You are going to be exhausted during this trip, probably more exhausted than you have ever been, and you will be tempted to just sleep in the first spot you find. Be smart and look for a roof, attic, or crawl space so you can get the rest you need with as little chance of being discovered as possible. Remember also, it's going to be very difficult to know exactly where you are on your trip. You are not going to have GPS on your phone to give you an exact location so that you will know when to abandon the river, take a left, or any other changes of course to get to your destination. The best way to overcome this is by locating landmarks on whatever route you decide on and use those as indicators of when you need to make course corrections along the way. Thanks for watching.